So welcome to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Pastelita Cakes. Goes by
Hello.
Ita.
Yeah,
Right?
do go by Ita, but only with family actually.
Okay, great. I want to start off by asking, who are you, and what do you do?
That's such a deep question. Who are you?
Who are you, and what do you do?
Who are you? I am an older sister, right?
Okay.
I guess I make cakes now. It's a thing.
That's great. Yeah,
It's a
and
thing. It's a new thing. It's a relatively new thing. I've only been like taking it seriously for about a year.
okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's
Really?
my
I
next
didn't know
question. Like, what? Well, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said. What made you start baking?
Well, I guess just at home I was doing it a lot. I was really just making a lot of really disgusting shit, really is what it was. Forcing my siblings to eat the nastiest shit. I thought I was like the smartest person ever because I like put cinnamon in something. I was like, these cupcakes got cinnamon in them, you know?
Right.
Just in case you were wondering. Yeah, so I just started doing it like that.
Like cinnamon's a really
It was
complex
yeah,
ingredient.
Exactly. I put a Hershey's chocolate in this, so this is gonna be super bomb. And yeah, I just thought I was the shit, even though I was making the shittiest desserts.
So this sounds like you've been doing it for a minute. Like you've been doing it at home experimentally.
Well, my mom and I would make birthday cakes for all of our siblings. We had
Okay.
a big family, so
So
started doing
how
it
long
that way.
how long would you say?
Probably the first cake I remember making with my mom, I was probably 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
for a
That's
birthday.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to make a cake so you could be like, man, this cake is good enough for me to like give it to someone, and I know they're gonna be like, yeah, it's good.
That's a great
Okay.
question.
So I would say that I was probably for a baby shower where I was like, you know what, I want to make the cake for you. At this point, I've made a lot of cakes, but they're not that good. So I made this like Winnie the Pooh cake, and that was probably the first cake where I took it to a party and everybody was like, oh my God, where'd you buy this? And I was like, I made that actually. And I feel like that reaction like made me really confident after that. You know what I mean? Because before that, I made so many desserts where I was like, I just throw it in the trash. Like, I don't want anybody to know this is even a thing. And that's why when I made that page, I was like, you see so many pages that are like picture perfect, you know, especially on Instagram. Everybody's trying to make it look like, look at this perfect dessert, taking it from the perfect angle, you know?
You're good.
And like, I feel like that's just not what happens when you're at home and you're baking. You're like you fuck everything up. You know what
Yeah,
I
I've
mean?
seen
Like,
your kitchen look dirty.
yeah. Oh my God. My shit looks hella dirty sometimes because
And
I'm
that's
in the
cute. That's
middle of
great.
doing it.
Well, no,
you know what I
and
mean?
trust me, like I come from like I cook for a
Yeah,
living, right?
yeah.
So like I know the steps
Yeah.
it takes,
Yeah.
and then it's inevitable that you're
And
gonna make a
it's
fucking mess
nonstop.
unless
Like,
you have
you're
a steward or a
constantly
dishwasher
cleaning.
at home
Yeah,
or something,
you're
right?
constantly cleaning. So, yeah, thanks for calling me out on that, bro.
That's a joke. I'm just saying
So-
that,
so
that
that-
cakes are authentic. Every time they're authentic,
Yeah,
made by you.
I do
So-
feel like I do my best to kind of be like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? It's not sugar coated. Like, I'll put stuff on there and be like, okay, I've never done it before, and then I'm like, I fucked it up. You know what I mean?
So would you
It is
say
what it
that
is.
that style of like being raw and realistic on social media, would you recommend that for somebody that's like starting? Like don't throw a facade out there that like, you know,
I
everything's
mean,
perfect.
I feel like everybody's got like a niche thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Niche,
Yeah, no, that's
whatever.
right. Yeah.
And you know, if that's not you, then cool. You do you. But for me personally, you know, I just felt like I was at first I was doing stuff. It felt so staged and it felt so like awkward to me. And I was like, I just can't do it. Like, I'm just gonna do, you know, what feels natural to me. And a lot of the times I like record stuff and I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, should I even post this? This is so stupid.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, I know, because you just like you'll watch it over and over again and like judge yourself and be like, you know what? So I just don't even let myself do that anymore.
But that's good though. Like that's good that you're your own like critic. Like you
Yeah,
don't be a
definitely.
yes man to yourself.
Yeah,
don't gas
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
up all the time.
No,
like
yeah,
you kind of have to be like, okay, maybe
there's a
this is not
balance
the
to
best
everything,
work I've
right?
ever done. You
Yeah,
know.
definitely. And when I know it, I'm on there saying like, this came out pretty shitty. Like I could have done this better. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like the one thing I didn't anticipate was that so many people were going to be like, I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound like so many people, you know what I mean? But I do get a lot more messages than I ever would have thought, where people are like, oh my God, I love your page. I love your energy. It's
What
so
cake did that for
authentic."
you? What cake did that for you? Because it
Um,
had to be a cake or,
yeah,
or a
okay,
specific
so
content that you put up that actually like
really think.
brought people to your page.
You know what? I made my sister's wedding cake.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
made
remember
my
that. I
sister's
remember
wedding-
that.
And
I
it was
remember
one
that.
of the first ones, really. It really was. And I made a little video.
Is that the one where you're spinning it?
Yeah,
And like, yeah, okay.
and Amanda's in it. My sister's in it, actually. And she was helping me place it. It was like I just was like, I'm going to try to make your wedding cake. It is what it is. I've never made a wedding cake, but I'm going to try, you know? And I made the video just kind of for fun, you know, for us and stuff like that to like give my sister. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like everybody, I'm making the cakes and I'm sending it individually to like a bunch of people. Like, look how cool, look how great I am, guys, mom, dad, everybody. I was like, I'm just gonna make a page, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at first it was just family, and my family was so into it, you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, Etha calling me all the time, your cake, I loved your cake, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It was never intended to be a business. It was really not my goal. It wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just like, hey, look at the stuff that I'm doing. And
it just fell onto it.
people just started calling me and being like, hey,
See, that's great to hear.
That's great.
you know, like,
There's
can I
always
buy
that
this?
one, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah.
And then there's that one that kind of
Yeah.
just like not turns you viral, but it's just like kind of puts you in a situation where like the word of mouth starts going,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And when it comes to
definitely.
business, what do you think brings you better business? Doing cake for like a kid, like a Pokemon something, or like some D's for like a grown man bachelor party or
You
something?
know, at this point, I've done all of it. You know what I mean? I've done both, like, ends of the spectrum. And I feel like people who are watching my stuff are typically people our age.
And I did notice, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I did notice that when you go live, like you have people that genuinely interact with you all the time.
And you know what? I don't even know a lot of those people.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
what's so
like,
crazy to me. These are people that like I never would have met in my regular day life. Like I had no, you know what I mean? Like there's this one lady actually, and she just started a page, and she was like, you know what? You inspired me to do this, and I was like,
That's
what?
great. That's what we
Me?
have you
Like,
here.
Who am I? You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. I never imagined it would. I mean, I don't know how big it'll be, and it's not that big at this point, but I would welcome it, you know?
Yeah,
I'd be
but
happy.
so it was your sister's wedding cake that took it kind of over the top.
Well,
where
that
you
was the
kinda-
one where it was like, I'm going to start doing this.
And
doing
you
this.
made a page
And
and
then
all
I
that.
probably made like a unicorn cake where everybody was like, oh my God, you made a unicorn cake? It was like such a freaking like unicorn fad going on at that time. These came out so
It's
good.
fire, dude. What the
Hey.
hell?
These did
Hey,
come
shout out
out
to the
so good.
sponsors,
Shout out
though.
to the sponsors.
Yeah, Barry's boxing, guys. Barry's boxing.
All right, so I do have a question. Like, do you have your own method of like baking? You bake at home.
I do bake at home.
So do you have your own method? Like, does the cake always come out the same?
So
Because you have your timing, you have the same ovens, you have
at
like
this point, like in my baking years, and I would say maybe like a year and a half that I've been really taking it like really seriously. I've moved.
I remember that.
My
yeah.
oven broke and like, oh my God, it was a whole thing. So no, like at this point, it's been still, I feel like in the
Inconsistent.
process
Do you
of,
use cake testers?
my cake testers are my family members and my boyfriend.
No, but like I'm talking about like if like a cake's like done, that you poke it with a stick and it comes out.
yeah. So typically I'll just like kind of feel it and I can tell just
Right,
by
right.
touch, you know what I mean? But for a lot of years I was definitely using that method. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I have cake testers with me right now.
You do? He's like, my fingers. Yeah. Yeah, I got permanent cake testers on me all the time.
What style of cake would you say that's like your favorite to do right now? Because I have noticed that you made your sister's cake. And it was a tart cake, right?
You know, those have been popular, and I just have been
They're kind of
making them.
popular, right?
I've been making them because people have been wanting them so much. I originally made it because my sister Amanda hates cake.
What's the pricing on that?
It depends on how big it is, because you know, depending on how many people you're trying to feed. But yeah, no, I'm starting them at like $75 starting, and that depends on what you want on it. You know,
And it's quality.
It is quality.
Quality.
Exactly, it's quality. I made it for Amanda. I put guava in it. You know what I mean? Because she loves that shit. So I did it, and I was like, guys, look, I made my sister a thing, and they were like, oh my God, we want to buy that thing. I was like, buy that shit.
And for me personally, I'm gonna have to book you for a couple cakes because I have a couple of friends that their birthday they're gonna get a penis cake.
Okay, I have one, and I didn't post it.
You should
I
have.
haven't, and I showed it to my grandma though first. I was like, hey grandma, we were in Target like for no reason. I was like, grandma, look at this cake I made. And she was like, ay Dios mío, ¿por qué me enseñaste eso? I was like, I know, grandma too. So I was like, I don't think I could post it. I don't know. I was very torn about that one.
Do it because I didn't know you made that, and I want
posted
3.
a weed cake,
I'ma
and
send it to
everybody
y'all.
went crazy on the weed cake. Like, yo, that weed cake, is that real weed on there? And I was like, no, I made that out of fondant. You know what I mean? But my aunts, my
If
uncles.
I gave you butter with like medicated butter, you could medicate cake.
No.
Are you? Oh, okay. It's legal now. You can say that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Got it.
Totally.
Do you see yourself doing this and like this is what you want to do like in the next 5 years? So you want to do
what I definitely know is that I see myself being an entrepreneur. I see myself working for myself, being my
Definitely.
own boss. I've never been good at, like
What made you want to be your own boss? I like that you
my
said that.
parents, because they worked for other people their whole lives, and then they got to a point where my grandfather passed away, and my mom just like had a whole like moment of realization where she was like, you don't know how long you have on this earth. Do I want to spend my time this way? And her answer was no. And at that point, I was graduating high school, and like, what am I gonna do? Like going through that whole, who am I?
Yeah, that's
going
kind
back
of like
to that, right?
the stage I'm at in my life right now. Like I've been
I think
working.
we all are at this stage.
I do
what
not
mean?
want to work for anybody.
No, and I was actually gonna tell you, I commend you guys for even doing this, because if you're using your time off to be creative,
definitely, and it's the perfect time.
such
You know
a
what's
good-
crazy?
that's such a great
What's
thing.
crazy is that me and Kenny had a plan implemented, right? And then we had everything lined up for this to happen at this time. Like what we didn't expect this whole coronavirus shit to like be happening.
Nobody
right?
did.
Nobody expected all the
real.
casinos to fucking close.
Yeah,
The city that
yeah.
never sleeps is taking a nap.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like
for sure.
So when you say the whole being your boss thing, because what I take from that is that's what I want to do, because I'm not an employable person. I'll get there when I want.
That's my
you know
thing.
what I'm saying?
I was never good in school. I was never good with teachers telling me shit. My parents they wanted to whip my ass all the time.
Yeah,
I just could not take direction. I've always been that person. You know what I mean? I've always known that about myself. So I got a job at the 99 cent
What's your
store.
last name? I'm telling you.
It's Quadra, right, bro? It's the Quadra last name. It's that boss shit.
Yeah, it's that boss shit, but you're not gonna wake up on time and you can get there 15 minutes.
Thank
early.
you.
Yep.
Right, I'm on my time, my schedule.
I don't agree.
No.
I don't agree.
No, with my businesses, I definitely am timely. I'll
Oh
say that.
yes.
I tried to be.
But yeah, you have to be really.
We're just late to dates.
to dates, to the important stuff.
To the
no.
important stuff.
But no, I definitely was working at the 99 cent store for a while, and I had a huge like realization moment where I was feeling shit. I literally was like gonna faint at the register. I was like, I gotta go home, and they're like, you better suck it up. And I was like, I am not the one. I was like, I can't do this job anymore. And I went back to my parents, and I was like, you know what, guys, like, I get it. Like, I can't work for somebody else. Like, you proved the point. You were right. You know what I mean? And I decided to go back to the family business, which was actually the ice cream truck.
Right.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started doing the ice cream truck full time, and it wasn't ice cream that really like made me fall in love with it, but it was the fact that I could work for myself. That I could make my own schedule, that I could be my own boss.
And you could just do what you could work as fast as you want there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's just at your own pace, and that was like such a huge.
There's
gift my
nobody
parents had given
micromanaging
me.
you.
Exactly, but that mentality, I feel like, is what brought on the Pastelita page, because I was like, okay, this ice cream truck stuff is really great, and like it's providing me a life, and I'm super thankful to my parents for it. But what's my passion?
Right.
My passion is being my own boss, but also it is wanting to be creative in a way. So it kind of just turned into that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I went through that recently. I'm an electrician, and then I really told myself, you know what? I went through some series of fortunate events. Yeah. I'm not doing this no more. I'm not gonna call somebody to make sure I have a job. Let me make sure I know I got a job.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do it for yourself, and I know that we live in a society where like you're told you have to go to school, you have to get these degrees, you have to do all these things, but the truth is like there's other ways, there's other routes. And like I went to college for like 2 years, and I was like, this shit fucking sucks. I hate this shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm sucking at it. I can't pass any of these math classes. I'm like in remedial math. I can't pass.
That's one thing that like I got a degree and stuff, but that's one thing that I would just want to put out there. Like, and obviously, who am I, right? But
I feel the same way.
You do not need a degree to become
it's just
successful.
While everybody else
it's
was
just
at
like
school,
if it's one of your goals, get it.
Yeah, well, everybody
it doesn't
was
matter,
at school. I was working. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I was putting in those hours and building a clientele, whether it was with the ice cream truck. Everybody else was at school at that point. You know what I mean? So now you get out of school and you're like, now I got to start. But I'm not saying don't go to school. I'm not saying
if that's your
I'm
goal,
just
do
saying
it.
That's how
it doesn't matter
out for me. That's how my life panned out. You know what I mean? And it just kind of.
And definitely,
that's why
we're glad we're hearing this right now. Right. So what the next question I have for you is like, obviously your family is your motivation, and you say that. I just want something to carry on to people that are trying to start something that you're doing. Yeah. So like, what advice would you have? Like, what like are they? Like they have to expect hardships or what?
Obviously,
what
you know that going in, right? You know that it's gonna be shitty at some
because
point.
you love it, it's
But I just feel like the hardest step is the first step, and that's just like starting.
Definitely.
And
definitely
so it's like My like biggest advice is like stop thinking about it so hard. Stop wondering about all the things that are gonna go wrong because you're stopping yourself, you're scaring yourself, and like that's just holding you back. Just do it, and it's gonna be shitty at some point. So just be ready for it when it comes. But if you just gotta thug it out sometimes.
All right. So I used to work at a cupcakery.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if you knew that, but
I didn't. But
I would make cake pops and shit, and then I would always answer phone calls for custom cakes and stuff. I wouldn't bake per se, but I just decorate, and I wasn't even that good of a decorator.
Yeah.
But from what I experienced, I do know that like people are super picky when it comes to custom cakes. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to put out there? What do you want to tell us about that?
I feel like at this point I'm at a point
be realistic.
where I'm like taking the orders that people want. So it's like people are sending me a picture of this picture perfect like Pinterest cake, you know what I mean? They're like, I want this replica and I want it for $50, and I'm like, whoa.
Okay, so let me give you a perfect example. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi.
Pastelita. No.
Pastelita, I would like a cake with 2 guns, 1 big breast, and a Pokeball.
You got it. It's gonna be $300.
That's
Perfect.
$300.
That's $300.
I pay $300 for that.
But are those the type of descriptions you get?
Or do you get like shit that's unrealistic?
Okay, so one time somebody told me, do you remember, Amanda? Yeah. One time somebody was like, okay, so I want a jungle themed cake, but I want it to be really minimalist, and I want kind of like a concrete look. And I was like, okay, like concrete jungle look, okay,
New York?
I guess, right?
New York.
I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, but I want it to be, I think she said she wanted it to be like purple. And I was like, how do I make a purple jungle cake? And she's like, and this is what I mean by concrete. And she sent me like these gray cakes. And I was like, I don't really know. She's like, I need a banner for the top.
Well, but that's the thing, though. You can't really do anything if the person doesn't really know what they want.
Yeah,
right?
Or like somebody who's doing a wedding, and they're like, well, I kind of like this style, but I kind of like that style. It's like, okay, well, come to me when you know what you want. You know what I mean? Because it does make it difficult to then say, let me draw something up for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I get to a point where I'm like, I'm going to draw something that I think you'll like, because you're not going to find exactly what you're looking for on Pinterest, you know what I mean? So asking somebody to trust you and pay you and give you a deposit when you don't have a picture of what that cake is going to look like is a big ask.
That's kind of like, I don't know why it reminded me of, but it reminds me when I helped my dad try to log into his email, and he's like, what's my email? And I'm like what's my password? And he's asking me that, like, what's my password? And I'm like, how am I supposed to know your password? That's
it's like,
that,
I have
right?
recommendations, but you have to have some baseline of what you want. You know what I mean? Like, at least what flavor you want. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't pick everything for you, but I mean, I will, but I would rather not. At the same time, I feel like I'm at this point where I'm making cakes that I'm recreating other people's cakes. And so even though like I like the pictures
it's not original work
on my page, I do wish I had a little extra time to put towards cakes that I was making.
Well, now you do.
Yeah, right. For the next foreseeable future, right?
And honestly, I think if you made you see that a boxing glove shaped cake, that is something that will sell here. Please leave your business
card. At least here, right? Here at Barry's.
And with that being said, we say that to say this. What's one thing that people should know about you?
One thing that people should know about me is that I'm very upfront and I'm very honest. So if you're asking for something unrealistic, I'm gonna tell you I can't do it. If you're asking for something I feel like I can do, I'm going to charge you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it gets to a point where even though people are your friends and you've known them for a long time, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to build a brand, and I can't give everybody the homie discount. You know what I mean?
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But if they're really your homies,
then
what people need to understand,
business.
they need to understand and pay the full price.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends who have done that, and even when people will buy a cake and then post it and take videos and then tag me, I'm so honored by it.
The least people could do is freaking help you market,
Yeah,
and get the word out, because there's some people there's so much hate in the city that they do not want people to do well, man.
I've seen people beefing about cake pages on
it's not even that serious.
Why is that deep?
Has anyone been shot during cake beef.
Cake
Maybe.
wars, yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? And I'm just
No.
I did.
No, did you
I
hear his
pretzels
question?
better than you. I didn't. What was the question?
Has anyone been shot during cake beef?
You know this. I am based out of East Las Vegas. It is possible.
Okay, so we got a shooter here.
All right. So where can they find you, or what's your handles? and
So
stuff?
right now I'm really only on Instagram. My Facebook is a thing, but Instagram is where I get most of my, not only business but following and interactions, and that is at Pastelitas Cakes.
Spell it out, please.
Pastelita. It's a name that my boyfriend actually made for me because they called me Ita at home.
Pastelita. That's dope.
Pastelita
Yeah.
is what it is, right? I was like, hey, that doesn't sound so bad. I'm gonna use that.
Before
So,
anything, just make sure we get some business cards because I want to leave them in the front counter.
Got it,
Because
yeah, totally.
if we get business, you need to get business.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I
Definitely.
appreciate
And-
you guys even having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us at the Dearly Beloved podcast. I am your co-host, Raul Lopez,
I'm Kenny.
and we have our special guest.
And I am Pastelita.
All right, thank you so much.
Cheers, y'all.
Thanks, guys. Let's cheers.